For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates. Abdullah Shahid, normally we speak to you as Foreign Minister of Maldives. You, of course, are a Foreign Minister of Maldives, but welcome to India for the first time as President-elect of the United Nations General Assembly. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be here in Delhi.
I will talk about what your priorities will be for that year when you take over at the UNGA. But just wanted to talk about developments in the Maldives that have taken place. May 6th, very shocking incident. President Nasheed targeted there. It wasn't surprising to many. It's been more than 3 months now. I know there's a 241 committee as well. But publicly, we still don't know who was responsible, who was behind the plot.
Indeed, it's shocking and a horrendous act on the life of Speaker President Nasheed. The investigation, I believe, is ongoing. We are receiving assistance from overseas experts,
UK, Australia, I think.
The Australian Federal Police, the United Kingdom, also the US. These type of actions can only be investigated properly with international assistance. It is in the interest of the government and the government's decision to make sure that a proper investigation is conducted and the culprits are brought to justice. I believe that the investigations are ongoing and we will bring all the culprits to justice. 5 people have been arrested, but is it now irrefutable that there are radical or extremist links to this attack? It would be not fair for me to comment on an investigation that is ongoing. I think most appropriate authorities would be the investigators, the police themselves.
Mr. Shahid, but President Nasheed, current Speaker, MDP, head as well, has brought up a lot of issues within the government. Now, you have a supermajority in Parliament, in the Majlis, but these issues with President Soli seem to be portraying a growing rift within the ruling MDP.
Well, I wouldn't say that there is a rift within MDP. MDP is the first democratic party to be registered in the Maldives. We are a mature party which could have differing opinions. And I think that enriches the party and the debate on issues.
His latest note, though, that he made public was to say that he would not be able to support the government because of the government not pushing through the hate crime bill.
Well, I think this should not be interpreted as a rift, but rather a differing of opinion on a special issue.
But he's made it clear that he would be, say, a candidate for the presidential polls in 2023. He's called for a referendum next year to shift to a parliamentary system. There's been no response from the government, especially President Soli, who's been very stoic in his response.
President Soli has made it very clear that his focus is on the pledges that he has come into government promising. And so he's ongoing with them. Many of the projects are the larger ones are about to start. For example, the Greater Malay connectivity and many other larger projects are on the verge of being started. The tendering stage has finished. The evaluation of the bids have finished. So very soon I am hoping that we will see groundbreaking of many of these projects.
We've seen a lot of activity already, as you're pointing out. Mr. Shahid, so would you say that the thinking within the MDP is for President Soli to again stand in 2023 for a second term?
Well, once again, it should be President Soli who should make that announcement. I think the level of development projects that are ongoing in the country clearly shows that this government is delivering on its promises. We came promising that we will provide clean water, sanitation facilities for all the islands. Even during the height of the pandemic, the projects are ongoing. We came promising that we will create access to islands. The harbor construction projects are ongoing. We came promising that the island health facilities will be improved. I just returned 3 days back, accompanying President Saleh to the north. The Kurdufushi Regional Hospital has been upgraded with multiple facilities. The tertiary hospital, which we promised to the north, is going to be tendered later this month. And the number of projects that are being carried out during the first 2.5 years of President Saleh's government clearly demonstrates that we are the only government which has done so much during the first 2.5 years of any government in the Maldives.
You mentioned it's too early to make the extremist links absolutely certain about the attack, but President Nasheed has been talking about it, whether it's in Germany or in the UK, through various media. He's even reached out to the PPM and President Yamin's party against extremism. To put it to rest, to put the argument to bed, so as to speak, there are no two power centers in the Maldives?
Just to come back to the issue of extremism, it is no secret that we have had an issue with extremism. And quite a large number of Maldivians, compared to its population, have gone to Syria, Afghanistan, and many other places where they have internal conflict. So there has been a growing trend of extremism. It can only be dealt properly with a national consensus, and that has to come about. It is regrettable that during President Yamin's time, they turned a complete blind eye to the issue of extremism. It is a fact that the journalist Rilwan was murdered during President Yamin's time. The government then turned a blind eye to it. So these type of activities...
ISIS has been claiming attacks.
These type of activities should be dealt through a national consensus building process. Whichever party is in power is not the issue. The issue is for all parties in the country to make it very clear that we do not give any space to extremism in the Maldives.
That's exactly the point that President Nasheed was also making in moderate elements in different parties. But to that extent, since you're mentioning extremism during President Yamin's time, it's very curious why President Nasheed would reach out to the PPM or the PNC.
Well, the response from them has been very clear. They have clearly come out and said that they are not ready to work with President Nasheed, or for that matter, anyone in the government. So that's where we are.
Where we have also been, Mr. Shahid, there's also been what's been seen as an anti-India campaign in the Maldives, especially this year. Get Out India hashtags which are trending. There is a publication which is constantly, pushing anti-India campaigns. There was a complaint that was made, bomb threat, somebody arrested, an ex-MDP person apparently who was then thrown out of the party possibly. But how widespread is this anti-India campaign in the Maldives?
This is a group of minority people, and this has been given some sort of credence through the rhetoric and the actions of the opposition. You would recall that the opposition, when they were in power, still they did not have a foreign policy. Their only policy with regard to international engagement was to try and play one country against the other. Even in opposition, that's the same they are having. So maybe they are doing this to appease a certain country. Maybe that is the only foreign policy that they have. But in the long term, that is not going to be in the interest of Maldivian people, nor in the interest of any party in the country to promote such hatred, xenophobia, and pure mistrust. Maldivians, by nature, are a group of people who welcome people, foreigners. We have always welcomed, we have been welcoming such a large number of tourists, for example.
Yep.
And Maldivians are an engaging group of people. So whoever is promoting this is a clear minority.
Clear minority, but it's interesting that you're going back to the President Yamin era and the foreign policy there, because there are, again, a lot of analysts who say that it's possibly that China is behind this campaign as well. President Yamin is under house arrest, and he's also probably part of this campaign. Is that something that the government is looking at?
Well, let me make it very clear that I will not point to any country being behind activities that are ongoing in the Maldives. And I think it will be not correct to assume that countries are behind domestic movements. The opposition, yes, they have no foreign policy. They are afraid of engaging with countries. And that was clearly seen during their time. Maldives was relegated to the backyard of the international community. In the past 2.5 years of President Solih's government, we have come back.
Yeah.
We have rejoined the Commonwealth, we have re-engaged with the international community, and we see the results. We have been able to win the United Nations General Assembly presidency with a resounding vote of confidence. And that shows that President Solih's foreign policy of engagement is what the international atmosphere today dictates.
So the government is aware of the threats. I mean, this was a bomb threat against the Indian High Commission, and arrest was, of course, made there. Very personal attacks against diplomats also in the media, online. Is aware of that and is dealing with it?
Of course, government takes these threats very seriously. Appropriate security arrangements are made. We do not take any of these threats lightly. The internet, the social media today, not only in the Maldives, but in India, in the most developed countries as well, is being misused by hate mongers and fake news promoters. There is very little that any country can do. But I'm encouraged by the fact that there is an international movement at the leaders level to make sure that we deal with fake news promoters and to make sure that fake news is not the source of genuine news for the larger public. And that is the responsibility that you have, yes, and which you are taking very seriously to promote real news.
When you talk about India and Maldives relations, so much has happened. The radars are still taking time. I think they should be in place soon. But the jetty that was announced for the Coast Guard refit, which is so important for the Maldives to have, in-house refit. There was controversy about that. Again, this minority, as you put it, opposition or whoever is behind it, saying that Indian boots will be on the ground, which is the same old hash story that they bring out every time, from the MNDF helicopters to this. But what's the progress in the movement on setting up the jetty?
Well, we take very seriously the issues of security in the Indian Ocean. Of course, today the threats would not come from states. There are non-state parties who are much more active and much more rigorously trying to compromise the sovereignty of smaller states. We can protect ourselves with, once again, international engagement. And that is why we are very closely working with our neighbors and countries like India, Sri Lanka, and many others in the Indian Ocean, including in the south, the United States and Australia. We want to make sure that the Indian Ocean is a stable, a peaceful, and a prosperous ocean. The prosperity of the Indian Ocean is stability of Indian Ocean is of utmost importance for the stability and prosperity of Maldives. And also the stability of Maldives, the prosperity of Maldives is as well as important for the prosperity and stability of the Indian Ocean. And that is why we are engaging with all our partners in making sure that the unbecoming activities of non-state parties in the Indian Ocean are deterred. And that is why we need this international engagement. You would recall that there have been large seizures of drug that has been moving in the Indian Ocean. Well, when you look at the quantities of drug, it of course is very clear that it is not targeted to the Maldives, because even if the entire population takes it, it will take a couple of decades to consume the entire load. But some people are using Maldives or the Maldivian greater territorial area as a transit point. We will not allow it. And that is why we need our security forces to be able to not only surveillance the area, but also make sure that such activities are stopped within our territorial waters.
So the jetty is on track, I mean, in terms of its time frame?
All our engagements on security cooperation are on track, and we will continue to work closely with our partners to make sure that our territorial waters are not utilized for any of these, and also to make sure that the wealth that we have in our territorial waters, the fish stocks, are not swept by net fishers and these
big trawlers.
Yes, we will not let that happen, and we will get engaged.
You mentioned President Yamin's regime and its lack of a foreign policy. You know, because of many decisions taken then, and you were talking about how that government played one country against another, debt in the Maldives. How are you handling the Chinese debt? And India has been helping a lot financially as well with currency swaps, lines of credit, etc.
India has been very generous in its assistance. It has been most forthcoming, even at the height of the pandemic. India has assisted us both in kind and also in budgetary support. Like all the small countries, we have had a difficult time repaying our loans, and it is of great comfort to Maldives and all small island states, and also the LDCs, that the G7 came up with the DSSI.
Yes.
Initially, it was for a 6-month period. I initiated the request at the United Nations General Assembly last year during the debate that it should be extended. And we were all relieved that it was extended and continues to be extended. With China, we are very grateful that they have been making arrangements through the DSSI, so that the Maldives and many other countries do get that breathing space. The ongoing projects are moving ahead, but it will be of great challenge for Maldives and many of the small countries and the least developed countries to be asked to pay the loans during this period of time of great economic devastation.
The projects there, of course, predated the pandemic, and the terms and conditions were a problem. But again, coming to India, you mentioned the Greater Malay Connectivity Project. How big a change will that be for Maldives when it actually fructifies?
That is going to be the greatest, the biggest, the largest infrastructure project that is undertaken in the Maldives. It's going to connect Malé, the capital, which is now connected to the airport and Hulmale. The connectivity will move to Vilingili, the suburb island of Malé, to Tilafushi, which is the industrial island, and to Gulifalo port. So this connectivity is going to bring a new era of economic activity. And I'm very happy that the documents, contracts will be signed hopefully during the first week of August.
And is there a difference that you see, say, in the way India conducts its development projects in the Maldives? Because ultimately it's Maldives government who puts out, say, a tender, or companies, whether they're from Maldives or other countries. It's you who decides who implements them. Is that how you see it?
Well, different countries have different rules. India is a democracy. It has a greater transparency. And with democracy, there comes a bit of... we talk about transparency. So for transparency, it takes time. The projects could be... the implementation could be seen as a bit slower. But end of the day, I think transparency and democracy helps.
He talked about this connectivity project as a new era. Now, President-elect of the UNGA, Presidency of Hope, you have Indian head of your cabinet, who's our deputy permanent representative there, Ambassador Nagaraj Naidu as well. India supported you from the word go, even though one of our other friends later threw in their hat, that is Afghanistan and Dr. Rasool. How big a role was India in helping convince other countries for your candidacy?
Well, the two countries which contested are from South Asia, from SAARC. And India being one of the largest country in South Asia, India taking a side on the election so early on sent a very clear signal to not only to South Asian countries but also to the rest of the world that within South Asia the preferred candidate is Maldives. And I think India made this decision based on principle, the principle of rotation. Afghanistan has held the post once in 1966, and there has been only 3 exceptions when it comes to the presidency of the UN General Assembly. I'm very grateful for the clear decision of the Indian government, Prime Minister Modi, and External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar, so clearly coming out and spelling it out. I think it paved the way for many, many countries to make the decision much more easily.
As you think, Presidency of Hope, the UN, when it's looked at from outside, how many people inside, again, talk about the lack of reform, lack of, a mirroring of the actual global situation. How big a role do you think you can play in reforming the UN system? You have 1 year to do it, and many before you have come and gone.
Well, the reform of the UN is a process. It's not up to one individual, one person, 1 year for this process to be completed. It's an ongoing process. The revitalization of the United Nations General Assembly is continuing. Many good proposals have been adopted. Many changes are in place. But as an ongoing institution,
but there's a need for reform.
Reforms,
you see that, right?
Yeah, of course. The reforms will not stop. It will have to be continuing. And I'm going to make sure that I engage with the membership. We are talking about 193 countries. Yes. 193 countries always making sure that they address their constituents' needs. At the same time, the trust that countries have in multilateralism is what brings all of us together at the General Assembly, at the United Nations. And we should make sure that the confidence on multilateralism is not lost. And for that to be continued, we need the reform process to be ongoing. And I will make sure that I do everything possible to make my presidency a presidency of hope to the reform process as well.
President-elect of the United Nations General Assembly and Foreign Minister of Maldives, Abdullah Shahid, thank you so much for giving us time on Strat News Global.
My pleasure, always. Thank you.
And just a reminder, you can follow our social media handles on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to get the latest news and analysis from an Indian perspective. This is The Gist on Strat News Global. I'm Amitabh Revi.